Her perfect union was about to be laid bare, not by an outburst of anger, but by a quiet, irrefutable presentation of facts. The opulent ballroom shimmered under the crystal chandeliers, a monument to the Beaumont family's gilded existence. My mother-in-law, Isolde Beaumont, stood at the podium, bathed in the soft glow of the spotlights, a vision of impeccable grace. It was her 30th wedding anniversary, and she was in her element, basking in the adoration of a room full of Jakarta's elite. I watched her, a quiet observer amidst the grandeur, as she gracefully accepted accolades, her voice smooth and confident. She spoke of 3 decades of unwavering devotion, of a perfect, unblemished union, a testament to enduring love and shared values. She even managed to weave in a subtle dig, a veiled reference to some people not understanding the sacrifices required to maintain such an esteemed position. Her gaze flickered to me for a fleeting second, a familiar glint of disdain in her eyes. The crowd chuckled politely, oblivious. But I remained calm, a serene island in a sea of champagne and polite applause. My expression was neutral, betraying none of the meticulously orchestrated plan unfolding behind my eyes. Isolde, in her self-congratulatory speech, believed she was delivering a final grand victory lap, an undisputed declaration of her flawless life. She saw my quiet presence as a sign of my continued submission, a confirmation of her dominance. She had no idea that I held the single piece of information, the meticulously collected evidence, that would shatter her carefully constructed world in mere moments. The true nature of her perfect union was about to be laid bare, not by an outburst of anger, but by a quiet, irrefutable presentation of facts. This wasn't about revenge. It was about the truth finally finding its voice. My journey to that ballroom, to that precise moment of quiet resolve, had been paved with years of subtle slights and overt condescension. When I, Alara Vance, a freelance graphic designer from a modest background, married David Beaumont, it felt like a dream. David was kind, intelligent, and saw beyond the superficial. But his mother, matriarch Isolde Beaumont, saw only a threat to her carefully curated lineage. From our very first meeting, her disdain was palpable. She would scrutinize my clothes, my career, even the way I held my teacup, always finding something lacking. A graphic designer, dear? How quaint. David's former fiancés were all from established families, doctors, lawyers. Such an intellectual pursuit, no? She'd coo, her words dripping with poisoned honey. I tried to bridge the chasm. I worked harder, dressed smarter, practiced my etiquette, all for David's sake. I believed that if I proved myself worthy, if I demonstrated my love and commitment to her son, she would eventually accept me. I spent countless holidays enduring her barbed comments about my small family, my decision to work from home, my unconventional career path. I smiled through her thinly veiled insults about our cozy apartment compared to their sprawling estate. I sacrificed my peace of mind, swallowing bitter pills of pride, all to maintain a semblance of harmony for David, who was caught in the middle. My inherent nature is to seek fairness, to stand up for myself, but for David I learned to endure. The final straw came as the anniversary approached. Isolde's cruelty intensified, her words sharper, her dismissiveness more pronounced, as if a fever pitch of her own insecurities was boiling over. She seemed determined to grind me down completely before her grand celebration. It was during this period, ironically, that the universe delivered the answer to her inexplicable malice directly into my lap. David had suggested I compile a digital retrospective montage for the anniversary party, a visual journey through Isolde and his father's 30 years together. He knew my skills as a graphic designer were perfect for it. I was given access to old family photos, videos, and even some digitized documents from their various estates. I meticulously sifted through decades of memories, feeling a strange detachment as I curated their past. It was amidst a batch of seemingly innocuous archived emails and financial records, stored in an obscure subfolder on an old family hard drive, that I stumbled upon it. Encrypted messages, discreet hotel receipts from recurring business trips she hadn't taken with David's father, highly personal correspondence with a man whose name was definitely not a family member, spanning years. It was undeniable. Isolde, the beacon of marital fidelity and moral superiority, had been engaged in a long-term secret affair. The pieces clicked into place. Her escalating nastiness towards me, her obsession with appearances, her constant need to project an image of perfection. It was all a desperate attempt to distract from her own deep hypocrisy, perhaps even a subconscious fear that someone might accidentally uncover her secret. My initial shock quickly morphed into a cold, clear determination. This wasn't personal revenge for her slights against me. This was about truth, about justice for David's father, and about exposing the toxic core of her carefully constructed facade. The sacrifice I had made enduring her cruelty now had a purpose. My secret weapon was the truth, and I knew exactly how I would wield it. The week leading up to the 30th anniversary party was a blur of frenetic activity. Isolde, consumed by the finer details of floral arrangements and caviar selections, was oblivious to the quiet storm I was brewing. She had delegated the entire digital presentation to me, confident in my professional discretion and more accurately in my perceived meekness. "Alara, just ensure it's elegant, tasteful. Nothing too modern," she had instructed, waving a dismissive hand. It was the perfect cover for my plan. I spent countless hours in my studio, not just perfecting the celebratory montage, but meticulously weaving in the damning evidence. Each piece of evidence, a time-stamped photo of her and her lover entering a discreet hotel, a snapshot of a private message from a burner phone, a financial transfer to a nameless account tied to a specific date, was prepared not for shock value, but for irrefutable clarity. I streamlined the presentation, ensuring smooth transitions, the kind that made it impossible to dismiss the revelations as accidental glitches. I even made discreet inquiries with the venue's tech team to ensure I had full, uninterrupted control over the projector and sound system at the crucial moment. Isolde, meanwhile, was in her element, basking in her perceived invincibility. She saw my quiet diligence as further proof of my subjugation, my willingness to fade into the background. Her digs became even more pointed, her tone more dismissive. Just hours before the party, she found me checking the projector connections. "Still fiddling, Alara? One would think you hadn't designed a proper presentation before. Do try not to make a spectacle of yourself tonight. It is, after all, our special occasion." Her words, meant to be a final crushing blow, simply solidified my resolve. A calm settled over me, a quiet hum of purposeful anticipation. I looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw not a powerful matriarch, but a woman trapped by her own deceit. It was time for her to face the truth, not in a whispered accusation, but in an undeniable public display. My heart rate remained steady. This was strategy, not emotion. The moment arrived. Isolde, flanked by David's father, stood beaming at the front of the ballroom, ready for the grand retrospective. The lights dimmed, and I stepped forward, remote in hand. My movements were fluid, deliberate. I started the presentation. The initial slides were exactly what everyone expected. Beautiful, curated images of David's parents through the years, accompanied by nostalgic music. Childhood sweethearts, wedding photos, family vacations, the establishment of their business empire. The guests oohed and awed, a collective wave of sentimentality washing over the room. I could see Isolde preening, a satisfied smirk playing on her lips. She believed her victory was complete. Then, imperceptibly at first, the narrative shifted. A seemingly innocent vacation photo of Isolde on a beach appeared, but in the corner, almost obscured by shadow, was the unmistakable profile of a man who was decidedly not David's father. A ripple of polite confusion went through the room. The next slide was a meticulously scanned copy of a hotel bill, dated from that very vacation, with two names listed for the room, Isolde Beaumont, and a name that definitely wasn't her husband's. The whispers started. My voice, calm and clear, carried over the speakers, amplified just enough to be heard by every shocked guest. I found these while compiling the anniversary montage. I explained, my tone devoid of accusation, simply stating facts. They were hidden within the old family archives, discreetly filed away. The screen transitioned to a short, silent video clip. It showed Isolde, laughing intimately with the same man, entering a private residence in a different city, a place David's father rarely visited. The date and timestamp were clear. Then, a series of text messages enlarged and displayed for all to see, intimate exchanges, promises of secret rendezvous, all undeniably from Isolde to her lover. Each piece of evidence was presented with a chilling precision, a logical progression that left no room for doubt. The elegant music that had accompanied the opening slide slowly faded out, replaced by an unnerving silence, punctuated only by gasps and murmurs. Isolde's face, initially contorted in confusion, rapidly shifted through disbelief, then terror, and finally, unadulterated rage. Her eyes, wide and wild, darted between the screen and me. She tried to speak, but only an incoherent croak escaped her throat. Her perfect facade, built over decades, was crumbling before everyone's eyes. David's father, who had been watching with quiet pride moments before, stood frozen, his face ashen, the realization of his wife's betrayal slowly dawning on him. The room became a tableau of shock and revelation. I remained standing, shoulders back, my gaze steady. I had delivered the truth, not with a shout, but with the quiet, devastating efficiency of undeniable proof. The ballroom erupted. The shocked silence fractured into a cacophony of whispers, gasps, and frantic murmurs. Isolde, her face a mask of horror and disbelief, suddenly lurched forward, letting out a guttural shriek of denial that was utterly unlike her usual composed demeanor. She pointed a trembling finger at me. Lies. All lies. But her voice cracked, her carefully cultivated poise dissolving into an ugly, pathetic spectacle. She lunged towards the projector, as if she could erase the images with her bare hands, but was gently restrained by two bewildered waitstaff. Her husband, David's father, remained rooted to the spot, his entire body rigid with shock. His gaze, distant and broken, was fixed on the now frozen image of his wife's incriminating message on the screen. The weight of 3 decades of deception crashed down on him. David, who had been standing beside me, a look of growing horror on his face as the revelations unfolded, placed a hand on my arm. His grip was firm, not one of accusation, but of a silent plea for understanding, a realization that something profoundly wrong had been hidden from him too. Guests began to rise, some whispering frantically into their phones, others making hurried exits, their discomfort palpable. The illusion of the Beaumont's perfect world had shattered into a million pieces. The lavish anniversary party had transformed into a scene of public humiliation and profound betrayal. Isolde, finally collapsing, was led away by a few mortified family members, her reputation, her social standing, and her meticulous image utterly destroyed. There was no triumph in my heart, no spiteful glee, only a profound sense of quiet relief, a deep breath after years of suffocating under her oppressive shadow. Justice in its quiet, undeniable form had been served. Weeks turned into months, and the tremors of that anniversary night reverberated through the upper echelons of Jakarta society. Isolde Beaumont's name became synonymous with scandal. Her social engagements dwindled, her carefully cultivated charity boards quietly phased her out, and the grand estate that had once been her fortress became a monument to her isolation. I heard through David that his father had initiated separation proceedings. He was heartbroken, of course, but also surprisingly seemed to find a quiet dignity in confronting the truth, a new strength in rebuilding his life free from the suffocating pretense. While the pain of betrayal lingered, he was slowly moving towards a peace he hadn't known for years. My relationship with David deepened profoundly. The initial shock he experienced quickly gave way to a deeper understanding and appreciation of my character. He saw the years of quiet endurance, the strategic intelligence I employed, and the integrity that drove me to expose the truth, not out of malice but out of a need for justice. He understood that I stood not just for myself, but for the principle of honesty within his family. Our bond, forged in sincerity, was now stronger than ever, built on a foundation of absolute trust and mutual respect. I no longer felt the need to prove myself, to perform for external validation. The weight that had pressed down on me for years, the constant need to navigate Isolde's cruel whims, had lifted entirely. I experienced a newfound sense of freedom, a clarity of purpose that allowed my creativity to flourish in my work, and my spirit to soar in my personal life. The entire experience taught me a profound lesson. True strength isn't about volume or aggression, but about unwavering resolve and quiet determination. Hypocrisy, no matter how carefully veiled or deeply entrenched, eventually crumbles under the weight of truth. Sometimes the most powerful acts of justice are not loud explosions of anger, but carefully orchestrated revelations, delivered with a calm, unshakable confidence. Standing firm in your truth, even when it feels daunting, ultimately liberates not just yourself, but often those around you who have been silenced by deceit. Always remember, integrity is your most formidable weapon, and authenticity, your greatest victory.